Hi guys, how you going? Welcome to Elon Musk Changing the World We Live in, and another episode of Twitter Files Part 4. So it's been an interesting week and a bit. So what I'll do is, again, Michael Schellenberger is the one presenting Twitter Files Part 4 today. He gives a bit of a brief overview of Part 1, Part 2, Part 3 at the start. So without ado, we'll move across to Twitter Files Part 4. And yeah, again, I'd love any feedback, both positive and negative, to help me out with these podcasts and how I can improve them. So please, again, drop some comments in below and let us know how I'm going. And again, any suggestions, let us know. All right, let's get into it. Let's see if we can transition across smoothly. And here we are. All right, Mr. Schellenberger. All right, so part 4 is the removal of Donald Trump, January 7. So as the pressure builds, Twitter executives build the case for Donald's permanent ban. Okay, on January 7th, senior Twitter execs create justifications to ban Trump, seek a change of policy for Trump alone, distinct from other political leaders, and express no concern for free speech, democracy, implications of a ban. And this Twitter Files is reported with Al Woodhouse, okay, journalist and documentary filmmaker. All right, I might give him a follow, and we'll go check him out later. All right, so he's a bit of an overview here. So obviously, part 1, again, Matt Taibbi, that's my pronunciation, whether I've got it right or not, documents how senior Twitter executives violated their own policies to prevent the spread of accurate information about the Hunter Biden laptop. So all of part 1 is about the Hunter Biden laptop conspiracy and what went on there. It goes into quite an extreme amount of detail and very interesting. All right, part 2 is where Barry Weiss come into play. Shows how senior Twitter execs created secret blacklists to de-amplify disfavored Twitter users and not just specific tweets. And again, and this is where Twitter has always said that they never shadow banned. I'll just move that off screen. Sorry, guys. And they called it visibility filtering. Just another word for shadow banning. At the end of the day, there are many interviews, especially with Jack in particular, at various hearings where he said, do you shadow ban? And he, adamantly said no. But do they visibility filter? Absolutely. And there were, it was really very interesting part 2. Definitely worthwhile having a look at. And then part 3 was back to Matt Taibbi, which documents how senior Twitter execs censored tweets by Trump in the run-up to the November 2020 elections, while regularly engaging with representatives of US government law enforcement agencies. So, and again, so all 3 of those, I've also got Twitter Files videos on. So if you want to go check them out, I'll take you through it, add a bit of insight and so forth. Again, any comments or feedback. Again, I'm an Aussie looking at this from Australia. So it's very interesting. So yeah, any perspective you can give me, by all means, let me know. All right, so let's get started. All right. So for years, Twitter had resisted calls to ban Trump. Blocking a world leader from Twitter, it wrote in 2018, would hide important info, hamper necessary discussion around their words and actions. Okay, so this is Twitter's public policy, and this was in 2018. Blocking a world leader from Twitter or removing their controversial tweets would hide important information people should be able to see and debate. It should also not silence the leader, but that would certainly hamper necessary discussion around the words and actions. So that was their public policy, and they did their damnness to change that policy for one person only. Now, but after the events of January 6th, the internal and external pressure on Twitter CEO, Mr. Jack, grows. So former First Lady Michelle Obama, tech journalist Kara Swisher, high-tech VC Chris Sacca, and many others publicly call on Twitter to permanently ban Trump. Okay, so various different posts there. Let's enlarge them. Okay, let's just move on. Now, so Mr. Jack Dorsey was on vacation in French Polynesia this week between the 4th and the 8th, 2021. He phoned into meetings but also delegated much of the handling of the situation to senior execs, Mr. again, Yoel Roth, Twitter's global head of trust, safety, and Miss, again, Vijaya Gandhi. And these are the two people that were basically running Twitter. Jack, again, he didn't seem to be really on board much based on all of the posts in the last week or so, the last 3 Twitter files. Again, it's all about Yoel and Vijaya. Now, as context, it's important to understand that Twitter's staff and senior execs were overwhelmingly progressive, whatever that means. In 2018, 2020, 2022, 96%, 98%, 99% of Twitter's staff's political donations went to the Democrats. So we've seen that again in Mr. Matt Taibbi's number 1 Twitter file. And you can see 99% to the Democrats, 98% Democrats, 96% Democrats. So, all right. Now, in 2017, Roth tweeted that there were actual Nazis in the White House. Okay. Now, in April 2022, Roth told a colleague that his goal is to drive change in the world, which is why he decided not to become an academic. Yes, that person in the pink hat is clearly a bigger threat to your brand of feminism than actual Nazis in the White House. Okay. So with some of these guys, I'm not going to necessarily read these images because, again, Michael sort of explains it up here. If there's a bit more detail in them, I'll go through them. So now on January 7th, Jack emails employees saying Twitter needs to remain consistent in its policies, including that the right of the users to return to Twitter after a temporary suspension. After Roth reassures the employee that people who care about this aren't happy with where we are. Again, I think there was definitely a lot of ambiguity, and with so many different staff at Twitter, it was quite difficult. I think, especially as Jack mentioned, to try and achieve that consistency. So Jack's emails have been fine, but ultimately I think people want to hear from Vijaya or Dell or someone closer to the specifics of this who can reassure them that people who care about this are thinking deeply about these problems and aren't happy with where we are. A few engineers have reached out to me directly about it, and I'm chatting with them, but it's so clear they just want to know that someone is doing something about this, and it's not that we're ignoring the issues. Okay. I think there's an opportunity to help people understand that while it seems obvious and simple that would permaban his personal account, so I assume they're referring to Trump, we can't afford to take that immediate action without first playing the movie out and anticipating all the other things that can happen. And then figure out the plans for those possible scenarios If we suspend the personal account and he posts the same thing on the official government account, do we suspend that too? People can be forgiven for not thinking beyond the thing that's immediately in front of them, but Jack, Vijaya, Del, you don't have the luxury of just pulling the trigger without thinking things through. We tell them repeatedly that people are on it and people are working on it, and they're scratching their heads wondering how hard can it be to decide if this single account is in violation. So this is the beginnings of the plans of how the hell can we get rid of Trump. And again, it appears at this stage that that's their sole goal, and to try and build the justification for it. All right, around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time, Roth DMs his colleagues with news that he's excited to share. Guess what? He writes, Jack just approved repeat offender for civic integrity. So the new approach would create a system where 5 violations or strikes would result in permanent suspension. Okay. Okay. So label only strike, label only strike, label plus 12-hour timeout, label plus 7-day timeout, and then permanent suspension. So that's what Jack's approved, apparently. So Progress exclaims a member of Roth's trust and safety team. The exchange between Roth and his colleague make it clear that they had been pushing Jack for greater restrictions on the speech Twitter allows for around its elections. Now, the colleague wants to know if the decision means Trump can finally be banned. The person asks, does the incitement to violence aspect change that calculus? Roth says it doesn't. Trump continues to just have his 1 strike remaining. Okay, so he's already got 4 at this stage. Okay. So again, that's just all reiterating the same thing. Now, Roth's colleagues query, again, I don't understand why they're redacting all of these people's names and so forth. Whereas in the first couple of Twitter files, they showed everything. All right, Roth's colleagues' query about incitement to violence heavily foreshadows what will happen the following day. So on January the 8th, Twitter announces a permanent ban on Trump due to the risk of further incitement of violence. Okay. So this is the permanent suspension, exactly what Michael just mentioned. Now, on J8, Twitter says its ban is based on specifically how Trump's tweets are being received and interpreted. But in 2019, Twitter said that it did not attempt to determine all potential interpretations of the content or its content. Okay. The only serious concern we found expressed within Twitter over the implications for free speech and democracy of banning Trump came from a junior person in the organisation. It was tucked away in a lower level Slack channel known as Site Integrity Auto. Okay, what have we got here? This might be an unpopular opinion, but one-off ad hoc decisions like that don't appear rooted in policy, which they ain't, are, in my opinion, a slippery slope and reflect an alternatively equally dictatorial problem. This now appears to be a fiat by an online platform CEO, again referring to Jack, I assume, with a global presence that can gatekeep speech for the entire world, which seems unsustainable. So you got someone internally actually questioning what's going on. So this might be an unpopular opinion, but one-off ad hoc decisions like this don't be blah, blah, blah. Okay, I've just read that. So Twitter employees use the term one-off frequently in their Slack discussions. It's frequently used use reveal significant employee discretion over when and whether to apply warning labels on tweets and strikes on users. So what have we got here? Could have bounced with a strike. I don't see any scenario where we could decide not the bounce here. Just want to check if there are any concerns. Otherwise, I can bounce under RTP and close this one before I go. FYIs, account for review US Ascension. We're trying to understand the one-off decision here. All right. Okay, so this is a recall from Twitter Files 2. So according to the Twitter staff, we control visibility quite a bit and we control the amplification of your content quite a bit. And normal people do not know how much we do. And again, this is the visibility filtering. Again, aka shadow banning. All right. So Twitter's terms of service, but they also engage in complex interpretations of content in order to stamp out prohibited tweets as a series of exchanges over the Stop the Steal hashtag. All right. So what have we got here? Let's go back. All right. So someone's talking to Mr. Yoel Roth. Hey, hope you're doing okay. We're able to get some sleep. Can we or have we already discussed blocking the stop the steal hashtag? It's furthering fake news in a dangerous way. What can I tell? Hey there. We're proactively surfacing that content for review under civic integrity, and it should be blocked from the type head trends. If you're seeing it either of the latter two, let me know ASP and PT can fix it. I just saw the hashtag and then did a search on it, and all the content was appalling. So I don't think it's showing up elsewhere. Thank you for your doing. I'll flag to the election squad. Remember that what I find appalling and what is a terms of service bio are not an exact overlap. Hey, okay. All right. So Roth immediately DMs a colleague to ask that they add Stop the Steal, an anonym for conspiracy term, Kraken, to a blacklist of terms to be de-amplified. Again, visibility filtering, aka shadow banning. Roth's colleagues objects that the blacklisting Stop the Steal risks de-amplifying counter speech that validates the election. All right, so he's not worried about the de-amplification of the counter speech. Indeed, notes Roth's colleague, a quick search of the top Stop the Steal tweets and their counter speech. But they quickly come up with a solution. De-amplify accounts with Stop the Steal in the name profile, since those are not affiliated with counter speech. Okay. But it turns out that even blacklisting Kraken is less straightforward than they thought. That's because Kraken, in addition to being a QAnon conspiracy theory based on the mythical Norwegian sea monster, is also the name of a cryptocurrency exchange and was thus allow listed. Okay. I removed the Kraken the other day. It did break something. There's an app called Kraken app or something. If we allow that, no concerns about putting it back. Okay. All right. So employees struggle with whether to punish users who share screenshots of Trump's deleted J6 tweets. We should bounce these tweets with a strike given the screenshots violates the policy. They are criticizing Trump, so I'm a bit hesitant. So they want to amplify anyone that's criticizing Trump with his tweets, screenshots of them. But if anyone is posting them in a positive manner, then they want to shadow ban them. So again, the double standard. All right. What if a user dislikes Trump and objects to Twitter's censorship? The tweet still gets deleted, but since the intention is not to deny the election result, no punishing strike is applied. So if there are instances where the intent is unclear, please feel free to raise. Okay, so delete only in instances where the content is not shared with the abusive intent. All right. So around noon, a confused senior executive in advertising sales sends a DM to Roth. Okay, so Jack says, we will permanently suspend Trump if our policies are violated after a 12-hour account lock. What policies is Jack talking about? Any policy violation. Okay. So, hi, y'all. I have a question, Ari, Twitter safety threads, Ari POTUS and Jack's email. Jack says, we will permanently suspend if our policies are violated after a 12-hour account lock. What policies is Jack talking about? Is spreading misinformation a violation, like his past tweets about election, or is it more about a tweet inciting violence? I'm asking because we are getting tons of calls from clients about FB and IG decision. So some clarity would be great. Hey, JP, for internal awareness, this would be any policy violation, not just limited to elections. But before sharing anything, please coordinate with such and such. On the com side, obviously a ton of interest in our position on this. Want to ensure we stay aligned. Okay, so let's see where this goes. So what happens next is essential to understanding how Twitter justified banning Trump. So are we dropping the publish interest policy now? 6 hours later, in this specific case, we're changing our public interest policy for this account. Okay. We are completely getting rid of the public interest approach. Thought we do have work planned on revisions. Okay. So the ad exec is referring to Twitter's policy of public interest exceptions, which allows the content of elected officials, even if it violates Twitter's rules, if it directly contributes to understanding or discussion of a matter of public concern. All right, so Roth pushes for a permanent suspension of Representative Matt Gaetz, even though it doesn't quite fit anywhere. It's a kind of test case for the rationale for banning Trump. So I'm trying to talk to Twitter's safety team into removal as a conspiracy that incites violence. So it's not a tweet that incites violence; it's actually a conspiracy. What's the latest on Antifa claims? Anything brewing policy-wise? C's yelling from the other room that we should just ban gay acts. SP and SI are working on that. It doesn't quite fit anywhere, but I'm trying to talk safety into treating it as an incitement. I think we'll get over the line for removal as a conspiracy that incites violence. Vijaya was directionally okay with it because I love Vijaya. Now, around 2:30 comms, execs DM Roth to say they don't want to make a big deal of the QAnon ban to the media because they fear it will push this. It looks like we're trying to offer up something in place of the thing that everyone wants, meaning the Trump ban. Okay. So that evening, a Twitter engineer DMs to Roth to say, I feel a lot of debates around exceptions stem from the fact that Trump's account is not technically different from anyone else's, and yet treated differently due to his personal status without corresponding Twitter rules. Well, that's obvious. So Roth response hints at how Twitter will justify deviating from its long-standing policy to put a different spin on it. Policy is one part of the system of how Twitter works. We ran into the world changing faster than we were able to either adapt the product or policy. Okay, evening of January 7th. So the same junior employee who expressed an unpopular opinion about ad hoc decisions that don't appear rooted in policy speaks up one last time before the end of the day. I think this guy's going to get sacked. So this might be an unpopular opinion, but one-off ad hoc decisions like this, blah, 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 that was as per before. Okay, so that was the one from before. Okay, so earlier that day, the employee wrote, "My concern is specifically surrounding the unarticulated logic of the decision by Facebook. That space fills with the idea conspiracy theory that all internet moguls, i.e. Jack, the CEO, sit around like kings casually deciding what people cannot see." Okay, that's just a description of that. The employee notes later in the day, and Oramus noticed the inconsistency too, linking to an article for 10 at Medium called "Facebook Chucked Its Own Rulebook to Ban Trump." So this move is a reminder of social platforms' power over online speech and the inconsistency which they wield. Absolutely. So the underlying problem, writes Will Oramus, is that the dominant platforms have always been loath to own up to their subjectivity because it highlights the extraordinary, unfettered power they wield over the global public square. And again, that was always Elon's goal, is to make this public square as open and as transparent as possible. And again, hence the Twitter files. So again, it's exciting to see all of this happening and what it's going to turn into. And places the responsibility for the power on their own shoulders, so they hide between an ever-changing rulebook, alternatively pointing to it when it's convenient and shoving it under the nearest rug when it isn't. So true. So Facebook's suspension of Trump now puts Twitter in an awkward position. If Trump does indeed return to Twitter, the pressure on Twitter will ramp up to find a pretext on which to ban him as well. Indeed, and as Barry Weiss will show tomorrow, that's exactly what happened. Very interesting. So that's it for Twitter Files Part 4. So we haven't quite got to the point where Trump's been banned yet, but I dare say it's about to happen. And Barry Weiss is about to take us through that tomorrow. So, but again, you can see that, again, Vijaya and Yol are hell-bent on getting Trump banned and kicked off. He's just been banned by Facebook at this stage. So it'll be interesting to see again if anything becomes of all this. Like, where's the government in all this? Where's the FBI? Where's the CIA? I mean, most of Twitter seems to be run by a lot of ex-FBI employees. So we'll have to see sort of how this all plays out. Anyway, very interesting. Again, would greatly appreciate any feedback. Again, if you like what you're seeing, give us a thumbs up. Again, subscribe to the channel, spread it out. Check out the Elon Musk Changing the World fan page. We've got a group going, happening on Twitter. So again, planning to upload quite a bit of content. At the moment, there's a bit of focus on Twitter because there's a lot going on there. Otherwise, the channel will be across everything Elon does. All right, guys, get going. And it's getting a bit late here, so I might head off to bed. All right, guys, see you in the next one. Cheers. Bye.